This is Karu with Sequentially Yours, and...
I'm Debbie.
Hi. Alright, so, we just got back from Batman v Superman. Yes, this is a week later than everybody else. We did want to encourage the studio in case it was terrible. And... well, we have a lot of thoughts on this. Let me start with some things, some warnings in advance. Alright, first of all, I will admit we both walked into this with really low expectations, and not just from the critics. I basically felt this from the first trailer. It looked dull and disappointing. So my expectations were very, very low, and you...
Yeah, I was... Yeah. I did not have high hopes. We should probably start by talking about how we felt about Man of Steel.
Well, we'll get there in a second. I want to get through the... Secondly, regular viewers of the show will know that I am a gigantic Marvel fan, both comics and movies, and Debbie is an MCU fan, and she likes some of the comics as well. So we are biased toward Marvel. I know that's been coming up a lot. We tried to go in this as, again, low expectations, but we tried to go in there as fair as possible, and, but I know that there are some people who believe that anybody who says anything is being paid off by Marvel. If you believe that, then you know what? Yes, you're right. There's no point in arguing with you. We've both been paid by Marvel to say this about Batman v Superman. That's exactly what's going on.
Yep.
All right, so now that we're done with that, let's start. I think you're right. Let's start with Man of Steel. Let's talk about that, because Man of Steel, understanding Man of Steel is really kind of important to understanding what happened here.
Absolutely. So, well, to say initially, my own thoughts on Man of Steel are complicated. I liked it okay, but it had some pretty significant problems for me. The biggest gripe many people seem to have is that he killed Zod. I don't have a problem with the fact that he killed Zod.
Yeah, he's killed Zod in basically every time he meets Zod, he kills Zod in something. He killed Zod in Superman 2 and nobody blinked.
Yeah, the fact that he killed Zod, fine. Not a problem for me. What I did have a problem with was killing Zod had no consequences. He screams for 10 seconds.
Yeah. It should be it has no consequences for the character. I'm sorry. I'm going to stop for a second. Spoilers from here on out, because in the off chance you haven't seen it yet, spoiler.
We're still talking about Man of Steel.
Yes, I know, but I'm about to say... All right.
Okay.
But I'm about to say, now that the spoiler warning has happened through the magic of editing, now the spoiler warning is happening, killing Zod did have consequences in Batman v Superman. There were physical consequences, but just no consequences for the character.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
If my statement was specifically talking about Man of Steel.
Yes.
In Man of Steel, there were no consequences for Superman for killing Zod. Again, I'm not a comic book expert. This guy knows comic books much better than I do. But what I know of Superman is a good guy. Superman, he fights for truth, justice, and the American way, yada, yada, yada. But no matter what, he strives to do the right thing. And just killing somebody, and as far as we know, this is the first time he had specifically killed someone. Which, that takes me to another problem I had with Man of Steel, but I'll get to that in a second. But the main thing there was, he does his raw scream, 10 seconds maybe, and then he walks away, and nothing is ever brought up again about that in the movie, in Man of Steel.
Yeah, he broods about literally everything in that movie except for murdering somebody. I mean, if you're going to have Superman brood about things, that is the thing to brood about.
Yes.
I'm wandering the earth to brood in public, or I'm conflicted about what I should do because my father is really bad at this whole moral teaching thing. No, it's, if you're going to spend any time brooding, that's the place to brood.
Yeah, that lack of consequences, the fact that the people that he was supposedly killing General Zod to save, in the scene, the people were, there was a door behind them. They could have they just stood there. You had an option. And Zod's energy beam was coming really slowly. So, that was a weak point. Minor thing.
Yeah.
Also, the movie was, it was so lacking in color and very lacking in joy. There were a couple of moments that I saw where Superman, who, to my mind, again, not being a comic book person, but Superman's generally a pretty joyful guy and generally brings happiness to most people. But in that movie, there was very little that you could find joy in. It wasn't a movie I wanted to go back and watch again. It wasn't a movie that I really would say, per se, I enjoyed spending the time in the cinema watching. I don't know, what do you think?
I think almost all of my complaints for Man of Steel have been pretty well trod at this point. Basically what you said, there were aspects of it I liked. I don't hate it. I didn't hate it walking out of the theater, but I didn't like it either. And that's really I want to like Superman. And I'll get a little bit later, I'll get into why I think Zack Snyder does Superman so wrong so consistently. But ultimately, the thing where Man of Steel fell apart, I feel that Batman v Superman kind of picks up and tries to correct, but it corrects it poorly.
Sure.
Unless there's something else you want to talk about with Man of Steel, there's a couple. All right. So moving forward to Batman v Superman and kind of the connection between the two of them. On one hand, yes, there are now physical consequences to what happens in Man of Steel. That now people are saying, "Hey, Superman killed a bunch of people in trying to do this thing and trying to fight General Zod."
That wasn't. I should mention that was another gripe of mine about Man of Steel is the fact that Superman indirectly killed how many people with the fight through the city. I won't belabor the point, but that was a bit of a problem for me.
But now Batman v Superman is addressing that, and I will give it credit for addressing that. But the problem was that it doesn't seem to address it in a way that makes sense. Everybody has forgotten that General Zod existed, that Superman wasn't just punching through buildings for kicks. I understand that Superman's kind of the one who's there, but why does nobody recognize this? Why does nobody acknowledge that there was in fact a bad guy in town, and yes, there was a lot of collateral damage, and Superman should have done things to avoid it, like drag him out of town. It's, again, well-worn territory. I'm not going to go too deep into it. But nobody seems to remember that General Zod existed except for Lex Luthor.
Yeah, apparently, I leaned over and said to him when we were watching the movie, I said, so everything that happened in Man of Steel was Superman's fault?
Yeah, entirely. Like, what happened that, the other big...
Why, yeah, you forget this giant machine. Superman didn't bring the giant machine on the two sides of the world that was terraforming, blah, 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 blah. That wasn't Superman that did that.
Yeah, why... People are so amazingly fickle, and this is something I was thinking about, actually, as we were watching it, and by the end of the movie, of course, Superman dies, and now everybody loves Superman again, even though they hated Superman for a while, but they loved him and they hated it. It's back and forth. People are not that fickle. It's a very... I guess you could say that's a very cynical way of looking at human beings, that essentially we as a species can be swayed that quickly and that easily. That's not how that works. The human beings, the rest of the people in this that are not main characters, are essentially used as to just drive the plots. And they have nothing to them. And I'm going to compare this actually to the Supergirl Flash crossover episode. For those who haven't seen it, it's a phenomenal episode. And there is a scene, a couple episodes ago, Supergirl was under the influence of red kryptonite. She did some really terrible things. People started doubting her. People stopped loving her. The whole bit. And she's been trying for several episodes to regain people's trust. Well, in this one, she basically takes a hit from a major villain in order to save a helicopter that the villain was about to attack. And the people around see that, and rather than just changing their opinion when nothing happens, everybody there steps forward to try to protect Supergirl. It's a wonderful scene, and it uses the people of, in this case, National City as more than just a way to either give the main character something to brood over, or basically let her off the hook from brooding. They're happy with me, I don't have to brood. They're sad with me, I have to brood about that. In this case, they are active participants, and they do actually help fight these supervillains. They're active participants in the battle. In Batman v Superman, they're not active participants. They do what the script tells them to do. And that doesn't make me feel like the citizens of Metropolis, the citizens of Gotham, are real people. It makes me feel like they're props that Zack Snyder and David Goyer are using to tell us, the audience, what we should be feeling. Do we care about Superman right now? Well, yes and no. It depends. How poll Metropolis and see what they think. Well, the people of Metropolis 100% right now hate Superman, so you hate him too. No.
Go back to the the fickleness. Talk about, and this is something we kind of disagreed about a little bit, of fickleness of Bruce Wayne in this movie. Like, in the beginning, and again, we're past spoilers, so you've been warned. In the beginning, Bruce Wayne is having these terrible nightmares of what apparently Superman is going to do to the world. One of which was some weird sort of bat monster flying out of his mother's grave.
Yeah, the Batman. I think that might have been a reference to Dark Knight Returns, where Batman does have nightmares about the bats in the cave, and there's one particular one that Miller draws a very really close up of the bat's face. Maybe it's a reference to that, but it's not a bat monster. It's just a close up bat.
Yeah, it was. And it was very dark, and it was really hard to tell. A lot of this movie, it was really hard to tell what was going on, because it's like they leech most of the color out of this. Like, same problem with Man of Steel. There's very little color in this movie.
Yeah, it's so dull. Why? What, Schneider? Why? Why do you have to make everything so dull?
Yeah,
not both color-wise and, quite frankly, a good portion of the movie just dull.
Yeah, but to what I was saying, Bruce Wayne is having these nightmares, these just awful nightmares that has him convinced that Superman is evil. And one of which he sees where Superman's basically turned into a despot, and he's lasering people, just boom, and they're turning into dust and blah blah blah.
Yeah, he has parademons because parademons.
And so he sees this, and so he's convinced that Superman is bad guy. Just convinced of this. And this is, came from somewhere. I guess because he also forgot that Zod had something to do with Man of Steel. Yeah. Bones in Man of Steel. I guess he forgot too. But so he's absolutely, this is his certainty. And then bringing up the fact that it's been brought up before, but Batman finds out that Superman's mother's name is Martha, like his. And suddenly, this guy who he was convinced was going to basically destroy the world is suddenly fine. No gradient, nothing gradual, nothing like positive evidence over time to show him that this is, hey, maybe this guy's not so bad. No, suddenly he's like, I gotta help this guy. It's fine. And boom, he's suddenly completely on Superman's side.
See, I'm willing, and personally, we disagreed on this in the sense that I'm willing to give it a little bit of a pass. It's a little hokey, yes, and it's always been a bit of comic book ephemera that, Batman and Superman's mother are the same name, and making it such an important plot point seemed a little weird. But I can kind of see what Snyder was going for, even if it was not particularly well executed, and that was Batman. He needed this made Superman into a person to him. Superman was not just an alien god here to impose his will upon us whenever he felt like. He was, in fact, a person with a mother whom he cares about, and that's something that, Bruce can understand. Again, I think it's a little bit on the nose.
It's a lot on the nose.
It's a lot on the nose. All right, it's a lot on the nose. But if I were to do it, I would have, potentially not brought up the Martha connection at all. Superman, it seemed a little like weird dialogue when Superman's saying, "You have to save Martha." Why would he call his mother by her first name?
Yeah.
You have to save my mother. That could have been the thing that pushed. Wait, you have a mother? That I would have been fine with that. This was a little on the nose. It worked-ish. I understand what he was trying to do.
It was. I do get what he was going for. It just, for me, it was like it was flipping a switch, and it was. I didn't buy it, frankly, for him to go from absolutely one extreme to absolutely the other. That was my problem with that. Also, Amy Adams, awesome actor.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
She's a great actress. I've loved her in many movies. Why was she in this movie?
Yeah, I know it's a joke that Lois spends most of her time being rescued by Superman. I know that that's a thing but you know what? We can move past that. She doesn't have to be the one. She was rescued, 2 or 3 times? 3 times.
3 times.
3 times. 3 times in this movie, Lois is rescued by Superman. To the point that Lex Luthor knows that if he wants to get Superman's attention, all he needs to do is throw Lois off a building. And Superman will show up. It's like the bat signal, only terrible. Just really terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the villain knows that all I need to do is endanger this one person and Superman shows up, you have moved beyond cliche at that point. There's no And I could see her being in the movie a little bit to pursue the whole LexCorp bullets thing.
Yeah.
Have her be a reporter. That kind of leads to my point that I was saying earlier, which is that there are a lot of really good movies buried in this terrible movie. I'm exaggerating. It's not terrible. This mediocre movie.
This is probably, I think, the biggest problem with this movie, and we kind of tended to agree on this, is the fact that they tried to cram way too much stuff into one movie. You've got Superman and Lois Lane are together now. They're living together. Okay, fine. Which, but it's just a given.
Yeah, they have terrible chemistry. They still have terrible chemistry. All due respect to Henry Cavill and Amy Adams, both of whom, again, are phenomenal actors. I love them both. but they don't have any chemistry with one another. I don't buy their relationship.
They had one kind of okay scene, which admittedly had some problems because it's got Amy Adams in the bathtub, which really, it was really poor staging for the scene, I felt.
Yeah.
I said this to him when we were watching the movie. I was like, no, you don't, I'm sorry, you don't put that, no, you don't put that scene there, no.
Yeah, it was weird editing, and it was weird staging, you're right, it was...
And it was just an excuse to see her semi-naked, I think.
Yeah, largely. But I kind of liked the scene where Superman was brooding on the balcony, and she's reaches up and touches his chest, and I kind of like that. I thought that worked.
Yeah,
There were moments where they were really clicking in there. It wasn't perfect, but it was there.
Yeah. So anyway, point being, there was one element there that was that this is one thing. They're together now. You've got Superman, like some people seem to be were calling him a god, and now suddenly he's the villain. And he's trying to play both the emotional whiplash, basically, of going from one side to the other. But this was handled very poorly. So there's that. There's Batman trying to investigate this human trafficking thing, apparently.
Yeah.
And also at the same time looking for kryptonite because of him being convinced that Superman's a bad guy.
Yeah. Or could be a bad guy, or... Side note on that.
Yeah.
The Batman subplot at the beginning with the white Portuguese stuff would make a great Batman movie. As he's wandering around doing detective work, decrypting, stealing files, trying to not get caught, doing the Batman thing. You had pointed out that when he actually, attacked the ship, that first shot with him on the crane was beautifully done. That was amazing.
And I will say, in Zack Snyder's favor, the man can be really visually striking.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
As a cinematographer, he can do very well.
Just don't have him work with actors. If you have him trying to tell actors what to do, he's inevitably going to tell the actors to do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Except for Ben Affleck in this, I think Affleck did really well with what he was given. I bought it.
What did you just?
I think Affleck did really well with what he was given in this.
You said except for Ben Affleck.
Yes, I'm saying except for Ben Affleck.
Okay.
Schneider talking with director.
Okay.
And I think that's more that Affleck is a better actor than a lot of people give him credit for, and B, a bigger Batman fan than Zack Snyder will ever be, a bigger comic book fan. I think that that was Ben Affleck bringing his Affleckiness, if you'll pardon the word creation, his Affleckiness to this, and essentially saying, all right, I know how to act, I know what Batman is, so I'm going to do this as well as possible. And honestly, the trailers made it look a lot worse than it really was. He was pretty good in it. Gal Gadot was phenomenal in it.
We should finish.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we'll get there. I'm sorry.
And side note, we should mention neither of us had any issue. Excuse me. Neither of us had any issue with Ben Affleck as Batman.
No.
We were both pretty happy with the casting and confident there was no, and he did fine, like he said. I thought there were things that I didn't buy, but it was because of the writing, not because of his acting.
Yeah. I rewatched Daredevil when they first announced that casting, and even then, I gotta admit, that really wasn't him. That wasn't... The actors in that were not the ones at fault for the most part. It was the writing and the directing that made Daredevil as a movie such a failure. The actors worked with what they had, and they tried their hardest, and it did not work out. But at least they tried, and they gave it and they didn't. It wasn't their fault. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's going on here. A lot of the failures are not the failures on the part of the actors. They're failures on the part of the writing and the directing.
Yeah. So going back to all the things they're trying to cram into this movie, Not only this, so you've got Superman struggling with that, you've got Batman doing the detective thing, and convinced that Superman's a bad guy until he's not.
Yeah.
You've also got Lex Luthor is somehow, like, puppeteering things from behind the scenes, sort of?
Yeah, the puppeteering feel when he suggests that he has made something happen, it always feels ad hoc. Like, oh yeah, I was totally the one who did that. That was me.
Yeah. You never get a good explanation of Lex Luthor's motives in this at all.
Yeah.
Like, why is he doing what he's supposedly doing?
Yeah, if you are crazy enough to do this for no reason, then you are too crazy to be that on point on so many things. He is exactly as crazy as he needs to be in the scene.
Yeah.
I really feel that Lex started out okay, and then just got worse as the movie went on. Those first few scenes, he was a little quirky, but he really just kind of portrayed himself as a 21st century businessman in a tech sector. He's a little bit off, and not necessarily the most socially adept in a lot of situations. Often using the fact that he's rich and powerful to make up for the fact that he is really not good with a lot of people, unless he is really good with a lot of people. But, those first few scenes, the basketball, the introduction of kryptonite, all that was fine. It's just, but as it went on, his motives got more and more convoluted, and... I
think, and I haven't said this to you yet, but I think they were trying to do a descent into madness. I think is what they were going for there.
Maybe.
And props to Jesse Eisenberg, because, again, same thing we said before, I think he was doing the best he could with what he was given. Because I suspect that a lot of what he was doing was because Zack Snyder told him do this. I feel like he was trying to do, or I think Snyder or whoever was trying to do Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor.
Tell me something, Lex. Why do so many people have to die for the crime of the century?
Why? You ask why? Why does the phone always ring when you're in the bathtub?
Who was, kind of mindlessly crazy. You see part of it. You see a little bit of that in Kevin Spacey in Superman Returns as well.
No! No, the other thing. Come on, I know it's just dangling off the tip of your tongue. Let me hear it just once, please.
Superman will never...
Wrong!
It's this character who is just a little bit nuts, and it comes from the Silver Age kind of mad scientist Lex. But, people of our generation, for the most part, and succeeding generations, don't think of Luthor, the guy in the green and purple suit, mad scientist guy, who is out of his gourd. And even then, he was never as bad as he is largely portrayed on film. But what we think of Clancy Brown. We think of the animated series Lex Luthor,
or possibly Michael Rosenbaum.
Or possibly Michael Rosenbaum, yes. Another great example. Yeah, but these are ones that are clearly... I can't remember who said it. Some blogger that I read. I can't remember which one, and I apologize, but this was not mine. But they were reviewing the early Smallville episodes, and their comment was, "Poor Lex. I would hate it if my entire life was just a series of Xanatos Gambits." But that is Lex Luthor as far as, sort of our generation knows Lex Luthor. Mm-hmm. So that, continuing to hold on to that Gene Hackman portrayal, the, dancing with a kryptonite on a metal chain, and just let that go. Let that go away. We don't need that anymore. We can have a Lex that... we can have a Lex that is instead smart and ambitious, and one day will be the President of the United States.
Now, I have heard, and I wanted to know what you thought of this. I didn't really get this, but some people had said that Jesse Eisenberg was trying to basically be the Joker. What did you make of that?
That's what it feels like. It really does. It doesn't feel... Alright, so... One of the few complaints that people had about Dark Knight was that the Joker, for a guy who is an agent of chaos, he makes really elaborate plans that seem to go off pretty much without a hitch. In this case, we have Lex Luthor, who is astoundingly ordered, to the point that if he doesn't get what he wants, he manipulates situations until he does. To the point that he was apparently opening some dude's mail and sending it back to Bruce Wayne. What happened? He was intercepting it in the course of the mail and writing notes on it and sending it back to...
That was a badly handled subplot. It's barely even worth mentioning.
Yeah, so he's this highly ordered person, and yet astoundingly chaotic. If anything, he's the anti-Joker.
Yeah, and I did notice, if you pay attention, some of the scenes when they get the close-up on his face, I swear they did prosthetics to make his chin pointier.
Yeah, that does not look like Jesse Eisenberg's chin at all.
It looked like they were trying to evoke...
Satan?
Well, I was going to say evoke the Joker, but... it definitely, there was some prosthetic work going on there, which I was like, But...
Yeah, and all of the theology just doesn't work when it's all a mishmash. It's like, it's the internet of motivations. You go to a forum and say something vague, like, let's kill Superman, why would we do this? And then suddenly everybody piles on with their ideas, and that was Lex Luthor's dialogue.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt on that one.
To throw in, to keep us from going on any more tangents, the last big thing I was going to mention as they're trying to stuff this movie full is the fact that one of these plots of Lex Luthor is to get General Zod's body, use it to access his Kryptonian ship, and excuse me, pardon me, I've had a cold the past few days, so I apologize if I sound a little strange.
Well, I haven't heard you yet, so...
Yeah, true. So this is how I normally sound. But take the body, get into the Kryptonian ship, which somehow he knew there was a Genesis chamber in there, apparently.
Yeah, it's... Here, yeah.
Which is just occurring to me now. I'm like, wait a minute. How did he know that? And to get the ship to recognize him, which, because he puts Zod's finger pads, on, and suddenly they accept him for some reason.
It's a really good thing Kryptonians have fingerprints.
Yeah, good point.
I'm glad that Kryptonians have fingerprints. That's a thing that they developed too. Amazing.
The parallel evolutionary paths or whatever.
Yeah.
But and to use this regeneration or Genesis chamber, I believe that's what is that what it was called?
Yeah, Genesis chamber.
Excuse me. To turn Zod into Doomsday. Why?
Why does the Genesis chamber even have that setting?
Why do we even have that lever?
Like, all right, let's see here. We can make you a worker. We can make you a soldier. We can make you a leader, or we can make you an unholy abomination. I mean, it was the Genesis Chamber thing. It was a little bit dumb in Man of Steel, but I kind of liked it because it was the myth of the metals. They were specifically referencing Plato, and you could see Clark reading Plato early in the book. So they did that on purpose. It's men of gold, men of silver, men of bronze. There was no men of unholy terror in Plato that I am aware of.
Well, clearly they're referencing Frank. They're already referencing Frank Miller.
Yeah. Jeez.
But why? Okay, fine. The Genesis Chamber can do this. why would you want to unleash Doomsday?
Yeah, because he already planned to unleash Doomsday before he even knew what the outcome between Clark and Bruce was going to be. Because Clark got there and it was already like countdown T-10. He was going to release Doomsday anyway.
Why?
Why would you?
Why?
Yeah.
You clearly,
Yeah.
it's clear he can't control Doomsday. Nobody controls Doomsday.
Yeah. And we were talking about Doomsday's creation the other night, and I was telling her that when they basically, to make Doomsday, this was pre-Kryptonian civilization, and you had you had prehistory Krypton, and an alien came and cloned an infant and threw it onto prehistory Krypton, and it died, and then he cloned the dead baby, and its genetic memory remained, and just basically made this dead baby die over and over again until it evolved into Doomsday. And she's like, and her comment was, what was the comment? Come on.
My comment was, how does that turn you into a 30-foot tall thing?
Yeah.
Turn you evil and without any trust or faith in humanity?
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, it hates life. But actually, I was talking about your comment that why would you do that when you know it's just going to kill you because you're alive?
Yeah, this makes no sense. What he was describing made no sense, but in this movie, it makes far less sense.
Yeah, the existence of Doomsday in this film is pointless.
Well,
and the sad thing is that's one of the best scenes of the film. The Doomsday fight is actually one of the best scenes of the film. I just wish that there was a reason for it. Because that's when we get to see Wonder Woman in action, in her Wonder Womaniest. I'm going to keep doing this. In her Wonder Womaniest. And that was amazing. And you get to see the three of them working together, and that was fantastic. I loved watching that.
Yes, I fully agree. That was a fun scene. It was not incredibly well shot, simply because it was way too frenetic.
Yeah, it was all over the place. I wanted to actually see them fight, and you didn't really get a chance to do that. It was bits and pieces here and there. Yeah,
it felt very confused and very quick. It felt very, very all over the place and very frenetic, but in spite of that, it was still a pretty cool scene. And Wonder Woman used her lasso, which was really cool.
Yeah, it looked good.
Yeah.
I was wondering how they were going to make the lasso look good, but it looked really good.
Yeah. Yeah, and the music, it was one of the few pieces of music, we talked about this right after. We were like, that was really cool. The way they used the notes, it was,
The music there, that was where the score really took off, and I don't know who did the score on this. I was going to check in the credits, and I just didn't see it. But whoever did the score, the Wonder Woman theme was amazing.
Yes.
But then again, I just sat there during that scene wondering, why am I not watching a Wonder Woman movie yet? Why does this not exist already? Because that's the movie I would rather be watching.
And I will say, something we haven't mentioned, Wonder Woman, or I should say Diana Prince, is other places in the movie, but she's not very interesting at all, except as a potential, I guess, kind of a potential love interest for Bruce Wayne. That kind of seemed like they would. See, that's what they were trying to set up, or at least maybe eye candy?
See, I didn't see that. I just saw it basically as, again, I would have rather been watching her movie, is what it boils down to. But I liked that she managed to get Bruce's little hard drive cloning thing first. I liked her reaction when he confronts her and she's saying, you need to learn to share, essentially. I've already given it back to you, but I wanted a copy. And
okay.
I saw somebody there that I would have rather been following than Bruce or Clark, to be honest.
Yeah, fair. Fair. I can agree with that. She wasn't bad, and I mean, it was, again, any problems with it were problems with the writing, not problems with the performance.
Yeah.
Gal Gadot did a good job.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But
I've been watching through the Fast and the Furious movies, and I loved her in those, and as those made me want to see her as Wonder Woman, and I'm not disappointed in that at all.
yeah, and I agree. As Wonder Woman, she looked like she was enjoying herself. And she clearly. I was very nervous about seeing her, about what Zack Snyder would do with her.
Yeah.
But great job. She did a great job. She was portrayed well. She had tons of agency. She could fight. She held her own.
Yeah.
She came out far less scathed than even Bruce did.
Yeah.
Let alone, of course, Clark died. Superman dies.
Yeah.
But Bruce looks beat to shit by the end of this movie.
He does.
But Wonder Woman looked fine. Wonder Woman looked.
Oh yeah, again, one of my favorite lines of the movie. That's a monster from my world. I've killed things from other worlds before. That was such a good movie. It was such a good line, and it was so well delivered.
Yeah.
I loved it. Can we, I want to move away from that for a second.
Yeah.
I want to talk about how Lex Luthor is such a better businessman than Bruce Wayne. Largely because he understands how to delegate. At the beginning, when we see the flashback to 18 months previously, and basically it's the Zod fight from Bruce Wayne's perspective. First of all, I liked that car sequence. I thought that was well filmed. It was exciting. I liked what they did there.
I agree.
That being said, though, apparently nobody can do anything without Bruce Wayne say so. He calls up his friend. This battle's going on in Metropolis, and Bruce is there. He calls up his friend at his building. He says, "Evacuate the building." I'm like, why have you not evacuated the building yet? But apparently Bruce forgot to tell Jack that he also had to leave the building.
Yeah, what?
He doesn't understand what evacuation means.
Why was Jack still in the building?
Yeah, why would it? Yeah, so he didn't bother. It's not like there were a bunch of people trying to get to the door. The floor was empty. He was just sitting there praying for a reason.
He was gonna go down with the ship, I guess.
Yeah. And then they saved. Then Bruce saved that Wallace guy, and had to tell everybody else, "Hey, there's somebody trapped here. Let's get some. You guys, instead of standing around, how about you come over here and help out?" And then the little girl, who's something's about to fall on her, and Bruce Wayne had to go and move her out of the way because she has no survival instincts.
I will grant. I think they were trying for she was in shock.
Okay.
I think, and it's a small child, which
Yeah, all right. I'll give the small child a pass, but literally everybody else cannot do anything without Bruce Wayne telling them how to. Meanwhile, Lex Luthor is so
Sorry, something I wanted to mention. Bringing up the guy that Bruce Wayne saved.
Yeah.
The one and he comes back later in the movie, and suddenly he seems to hate both Superman and Bruce Wayne.
I'm going to put a pin on that for a second because I want to finish this up.
Okay.
All right, yeah. So Lex Luthor, as a businessman, has several different companies going, to the point that his evil plan to kidnap Superman's mother, he delegated that so that he doesn't even know where she is. That is delegation. Yeah. That is how you handle this if you are a businessman. You hire somebody and then you make sure that they just take care of it. You don't need to get involved. He doesn't need to know where Martha Kent is being kept. And you know what? It worked out to his favor because Superman can't force him to tell him. It worked out really well. Lex Luthor is a much better businessman than Bruce Wayne, just because he knows how to get his people to actually do their job without him having to lead them by the hand.
Even though I didn't buy him as a good businessman through most of this movie.
Oh no, I didn't buy him as a good businessman. No, but I got to give him points for delegation.
Agreed.
Yeah, he's honestly too crazy to be a businessman.
Yeah, in that one instance, yes. Otherwise, no.
Yeah, no. But yeah, what you were just saying though, let's get that pen.
Yeah. Ding.
Yeah.
The person, so one of the guys who apparently worked for Wayne Industries, at least I assume that was Wayne Industries.
Yeah, it was Wayne Industries.
Had apparently gotten out of the building and had gotten outside, but something had fallen, a beam.
Fell on his legs.
Fell on his legs.
Yeah.
So they saved him, but his legs were done for. Couldn't he? You know, he lost both legs. And he shows up later in the movie, and apparently somehow seemed to hate both Bruce Wayne and Superman.
I think that was as a result of Bruce, saved his life, but then he seems to have thought that Bruce forgot him. When in reality, Lex was intercepting his mail on the off chance that he might prove useful later on in life, sending it back to Bruce. I guess, and for some reason, he's sending these back to. They actually addressed this in the film. Basically, what's happening is Bruce was sending the guy checks to help him live.
Yeah, he had a foundation that was to help out injured employees of his company or their family or whatnot.
Yeah. Well, he was at one point you find out that the checks were coming back with messages on them to Bruce about this, that, and the why are you so Bruce Wayne equals blind, and how can you not see the danger, and this, that, and the next thing going on and on and on. And Bruce Wayne is saying, why was this not brought to my attention?
Because he just found this out.
Yeah, and that was my question too. I asked that even before he died. I'm like, why wasn't Bruce Wayne told about this? This would have been important. And the answer was, we don't know. We're looking into it. No, movie. That was not sufficient. If you're going to bring this up, you can't just hand wave it away.
And yeah, they brought it up and never touched it again. And I guess.
Well, they did touch it again. Lex mentioned that he was the one doing it.
Well, true.
To push Batman over the edge.
No, but I meant why they never touched the fact that why no one ever told Bruce.
Yeah,
That never came up again.
Yeah, is Lex that much of a master manipulator that he can make people not tell the boss important things?
Yeah.
I mean, is Wayne Industries compromised somehow? What happened there?
Well, and I suspect now thinking about it and us discussing it, I suspect probably what Lex was doing was intercepting the checks, and then maybe when he went to ask the guy to help, he got him a wheelchair, since obviously the guy had lost both his legs. He got him a wheelchair, like a nice fancy wheelchair. I'm gonna guess it gave him a nice payment with it.
Yeah.
To ensure his loyalty to him.
But they said that the check comes back every month. So he must have been sending this. He must have been interfering with the mail.
Yeah.
Wrapping these checks.
Yeah.
Writing messages on them, sending them back to Bruce Wayne. On the off chance that this might come in handy someday.
Yeah, it was beyond silly.
Yeah, and it happened to be the one guy who, legless, decides to climb the Superman statue so he can spray paint it.
Right. Which, okay.
Yeah. And let's talk about the Superman statue for a second.
Yes,
what was that pose? It's something like this. He looks like a bowler. He looks like a guy. He looks like either a bowler or a guy who just finished an amazing guitar solo. He's like, yeah, and after he had smashed the guitar. That's really what that looks like.
Or possibly the thinker was having a stroke, kind of.
What was going on with that statue?
I don't know.
Somebody in production design didn't know exactly what they wanted on screen, apparently. It's
a strange looking statue. I mean, you've all seen it. It was in all the trailers.
Yeah, and in the trailer, I thought the statue had been toppled over. That's what we were seeing was the statue toppled over because it was such a weird kind of no. That's the statue in its upright position. The statue's never touched.
Yeah.
It's spray painted. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, which, by the way, could you tell what... I couldn't read what was spray painted there. Could you?
False God.
Oh, okay.
It was False God.
Oh, that's right. That's from the trailer. Now that I think about it, it was in the trailers, too. But in the movie, I couldn't... It wasn't... Well, and that was another thing. it was not well focused on. That shot was not well done.
No.
Because you could not, because I tried to read it, but it was not zoomed in on very well, and it was not for long enough to give you a solid shot to read it. It was on it for maybe 5 seconds.
Well, they assume we all watched the trailer.
I guess. That's a poor assumption in a movie, though.
Yes, Zack Snyder makes poor assumptions in movies. That's his thing.
Point.
And
Point.
so does David Goyer, for that matter.
Yeah.
That being said, what else was there? Oh, there were so many things. Couple things that I want to respond to other critics about. Mm-hmm.
Let us not forget the jar of piss.
Oh, okay, we'll get back to that. All right. The whole...
Yes, there's a jar of piss in this.
It's a plot point. It is totally a plot point for reasons. Anyway, the whole Martha Wayne with the pearl thing and the gun.
Oh, uh-huh.
That's straight out of Dark Knight Returns. That is actually in there. It's awkward and weird, but yeah, and I'm not surprised that Snyder took it because you could do a lot of stylized things with it, which he did.
That opening scene. Yeah. That's the opening scene in the movie. It starts with the Wayne's funeral, which very very small squee. Jeffrey Dean Morgan played what's his dad's
Thomas
name?
Wayne.
Thomas Wayne, which Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yeah,
yay.
but apparently he played Thomas Wayne as the comedian because some guy's got a gun held on you, and his answer was to try to punch him with his offhand.
Yeah.
Let's punch the guy with the gun held. Basically, as far as I'm concerned, Thomas Wayne got himself and his wife killed. And I hate the victim blame on this, but what did you think you were going to do? Did you think you were going to beat up the guy with the gun?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was.
No. Your son beats up guys with the gun because he wears body armor.
Yeah.
And he's trained for years in order to do this. You killed yourself.
Yeah.
And that was just. But the other thing, another thing that people had a problem with, people keep mentioning how many guns he uses. And I do have a problem with how much killing Batman does, especially wanton, consequence-free killing.
Yeah.
He does a lot of it, and I don't know why his vehicles all have machine guns on them.
Yeah.
But the physical guns that he has actually, again, reminds me of Dark Knight Returns. Like, there's one scene where he has a sniper rifle like he does in this at one point, and the sniper rifle does not fire bullets. In that one, it fires a tightrope so he can walk between buildings. Which, okay, yeah, that's cool. Use the technology as long as you're not using it to kill people. In this case, it fires a tracker, which I don't see the point of, considering that, hey, Lex is taking a weird thing that he wants to research. I wonder if he's bringing it to the LexCorp Research Park.
Yeah,
Way to go, world's greatest detective. You could have put that one together? No, we had to have a tracker.
Yeah, he puts a tracker on the truck and proceeds, instead of to follow them very stealthily, it's come in guns blazing with the Batmobile, which, by the way, we never got a decent look at.
Yeah, and from what I saw, it looked kind of cool. The Batwing, on the other hand, we got a decent look at.
Yes.
Love the design of the Batwing.
Agreed.
Batwing looks fantastic. But yeah, if you put it, and more to the point, at one point he actually barrels into the truck with the tracker on it, using the Batmobile, and he almost knocked the tracker off the truck using the Batmobile.
Yeah, he took off, say, the top, say, several feet of this truck, and the tracker, they show a shot of the tracker, and it's 6 inches below the sheared off top of the truck.
He is just that good aim with his car. Another thing that so there was that with the guns. There was him using the kryptonite gun. It's a gas gun. It's non-lethal. I'm okay with that. You saw him using guns in his post-apocalyptic future dream sequence. It's a dream.
Yeah.
And I guess Batman's superpower is prophetic dreams now, but still, it's a dream. I'm going to give it a pass.
Apparently.
Because, there have been times in dreams where I have done stupid things that I would never do because it's a dream and I don't get to control that.
Dream logic, man.
Exactly, dream logic. I'm okay with that. So he really did not use guns that often, and again, Dark Knight Returns establishes that he can use guns for non-lethal reasons, and I'm okay with the technology being used as long as he's not there capping people left and right. There is one scene where he grabs a guy and like swings his arm around, and the guy had a machine gun and he almost shoots a bunch of other people. It wasn't great, but whatever, I'll let it slide. Again,
but Batman was, it wasn't with guns, but I felt like there was still a lot of wanton killing. That car chase, especially when he's following the tracker, because he's crashing through shit and he's driving, cars and tossing one car on another, and like,
he knocked he literally smacked somebody in the grill with the Batmobile. Like the shot cut when the Batmobile was about here, inches from the guy's face. Unless the guy is in fact the Flash in disguise and ducked it, that guy just got a Batmobile to the nose. He did not survive that.
Yeah, that was, and it's still a lot of, on both sides, both Batman and Superman, seeming largely wanton disregard for human life on both sides, and Batman being terrified of Superman and what he's going to do to people rang very hollow.
Yeah, when apparently Batman has no problem doing stuff to people himself. It's just Superman has the capacity to do it on a much grander scale.
Clearly they show, there's a scene near the beginning where...
Hold on, I'm going to turn on some lights because it's starting to get a little dark in here.
Actually, turn the other one off. Turn the second one off.
Yeah.
That makes, no, not that other one. Turn that one back on and the other one back off.
Really?
I like the well, you see what you think.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
I like the orange glow it gives it.
Okay. So, but yeah, the wanton killing, and I've actually got it. I told you about this a couple of days ago, but I didn't get a chance to actually tell you. Okay. What I think Zack Snyder considers fun.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so I was reading some interviews about this, and
I have a pin to put in something, just so we remember and come back to it later.
Yeah, we'll get back.
Continue.
Yeah. So he was talking about the Joker spray-painted bat suits in the Batcave, and it's kind of referencing Jason Todd, who the Joker killed, and I'm not opposed to that at all. I think I would have preferred the Robin memorial that's in the comics, where it's Robin's outfit. So, but fine, we'll go with that. But one of the things Zack Snyder was saying was that there's a lot of fun backstory to that to play with for this character. Like, okay, fine. Then he pointed out that you remember the photographer with Lois Lane in this?
Yes.
The one who got shot in the face?
Yes.
Yeah, that's Jimmy Olsen. He never mentions it in the film, but when he was making it, he made that Jimmy Olsen. I can't remember, again, somebody said it. Somebody said it, I can't remember who it is, and I'm really bad about citing that, but it was not me. Basically, he put an Easter egg in the movie for himself. And
So he killed Jimmy Olsen.
Yes, he killed Jimmy Olsen. And again, his comment on it was, well, I thought it'd be a fun thing to do. Again, that he's using the word fun in a very specific way. I think Zack Snyder just thinks that gruesome murder is fun.
I don't think this word means what you think it means.
Yeah, don't go to Zack Snyder's dinner parties, guys. It sounds dangerous. If this is what he thinks is fun, yeah, I'm just glad that I might actually have to look up what James Wan considers fun, because I'm looking forward to the Aquaman movie. James Wan, who's directing, and I love James Wan's direction, has said that he wants to do a swashbuckling high seas adventure. That sounds like fun. Yeah. That's the movie I'm looking forward to. Yeah. I just hope that James Wan doesn't consider, pointless killing fun like Zack Snyder does, apparently.
Well, James Wan is, he's a masterful horror director, which means what he is good at is atmosphere.
Yeah, and he's good, and he knows how to use the frame to imply things on the outside of the frame. So he could really do a big world for us. He could make Atlantis look huge without it having to look huge.
And he can be subtle.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
And he knows how to play with atmosphere, and he knows how to manipulate audience expectations. So I'm very confident we have very much enjoyed several James Wan movies.
Yeah.
And I'm very confident that he can make a fun one. I think I'm interested to see what he does with not horror. I'm very interested in that. And yeah, I totally agree. I think he could do really good things with Aquaman.
Yeah. But yeah, so where were we?
Oh, to finish what I put a pin in a minute ago.
Yeah, pull that back out, yeah.
Yeah. Ding.
I actually have a ding sound effect. We don't have to do that.
Oh, okay. All right.
Magic editing.
Was to say, like, neither of these two heroes of the scenes, the very couple of scenes where you get Batman, Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent distrusting each other and trying to call each other out on being, like, worse, each is worse than the other. You're both awful in this movie.
Yeah.
You're both awful people.
Terrible.
Neither of you seem to care anything about human life. Like, neither of y'all get any right to say nothing.
Agreed. Yeah, it just... And I think a lot of the reason why Zack Snyder is so terrible at Superman is that Zack Snyder's an objectivist. And Superman is as anti-objectivist as you can get. He is considerate, he is generous, and most importantly, he is selfless. I went through my Ayn Rand phase when I was a teenage boy, an entitled teenage boy as well. So I remember this. I remember the rants against the idea of being selfless. Because being selfish is to possess a self. Being selfless is to have no self and therefore to just be a tool of the powerful. And that's essentially what this nightmare future was. Superman is a tool of somebody powerful because he has no self and therefore cannot have morality. Morality is based entirely on what is best for you. It is a really self-serving philosophy.
Yeah.
And it is the opposite of everything that Superman is. And that's kind of the big problem with a guy who doesn't like anything about Superman, who disagrees fundamentally with Superman's ethos, doing Superman. I would not mind Zack Snyder doing a Question movie. Because the Question was Steve Ditko's way of getting some of his objectivism into superheroes. Because you can't do that with Spider-Man, obviously, or Doctor Strange or most of the Marvel stuff. But the Question, when he was at Charlton Comics, he was able to kind of get this hero who was mostly self-serving, who was, ironically a bit of an Ubermensch in his own right. And that works, and I would like to see Zack Snyder take that on, but keep him away from Superman, please. He clearly hates everything about Superman.
Yeah, there were things I liked about this movie, but this is a depressing, a dark, and I mean dark in both lighting and tone movie. Yeah. This is, the thing I was going to bring up, remember what I was going to bring up, the demonstration of how awful Bruce Wayne is, or Batman is in this, is near the beginning. He's been following this human tracking subplot that we see, and these two cops come into this building, and they, starting on the ground floor, they go and they're looking around for people and seeing what they can do, and there are these people behind what look like prison bars, and they're kind of talking quietly to them and trying to, okay, we'll get you out of there, whatever. And it's a bunch of women and children, I think. I'm guessing it was human trafficking victims, I think was what they were going for there.
Yeah, that seemed to be the thing.
And they take this, and these guys they're going to open they're gonna open the prison door, and one of the women's like, no.
Yeah,
no.
she grabs the door.
She grabs the door to close it again, and she's like, he's still here.
Yeah, the devil is.
The devil.
And mind you, this is all subtitled because they're speaking in their language. I wasn't sure exactly what it was.
They appeared to be some Asian of some
like
type.
Southeast Asian. Of some sort,
Yes, exactly. So it was something. It was some type of Asian language. But and you go and you don't know what's there. You don't know why they're terrified. So the cops go up to check it out, and lo and behold, the first thing they find is this guy tied to a radiator, branded with a bat, which you find out later was the human trafficking guy. But then you find Batman.
Just in the corner, like hanging. And you know what? The thing is that I bought it in What We Do in the Dark.
What We Do in the Shadows.
What We Do in the Shadows. I bought the hiding in the top corner of the room there because he also used.
Batman's now a vampire.
Yes, he also in What We Do in the Shadows. He also used mind control to make that work. In this case, I'm like, what did you think you were gonna do, Bruce?
Yeah.
Did you really think that they were? I'm surprised it took them that long to notice that you were just kind of sitting there in the top corner.
Well, they obscured our vision and made everything very blurry. But I'm like, the cop's vision is blurry too.
Yeah.
He's in the same room.
Yeah, the cops can't see anything off frame.
Clearly.
Peekaboo.
But yeah.
Yeah, no.
But it just another point as to how, like, Batman is not a good guy in this. In no way, shape, or form is Batman a good guy.
Yeah. He makes death traps and leaves his symbol in people's flesh. He's basically Jigsaw.
Yeah.
To teach him a lesson. He's basically Jigsaw.
They make the statement in the movie that he brands criminals, and apparently it's supposed to be the worst of the worst. When they go to prison, that's a death sentence because they have Batman's brand in them.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Are the prisoners doing this? Because I would think that the prisoners would be like, "Hey, you survived the bats? You're on our side now. We got you, buddy."
Well, I think the implication was the people he was branding, my take at least, I think they said that the people he was branding were like child molesters and human trafficking, people who are doing human trafficking and those sorts of things. So I think the implication there was like, these are the worst of the worst.
I'm still pretty sure prisoners are not going to be murdering people for Batman.
No, but I think it's the fact that they have to put child molesters in their own wing, or the other prisoners will kill them. I guess. I think that's what they were going for.
It might be a reference to, again, Dark Knight Returns, where you had the mutants gang who eventually become these sons of Batman. After Batman beats up their leader in front of them. And these Sons of Batman at first are just extremely violent. They go after criminals, but they have no sense of proportionality. They kill people. That frame that you saw with Batman breaking the gun, that's the weapon of the enemy. We don't need it. He was talking to them.
Oh, I see.
Basically, by issue 4, he needs an army, so he goes and he decides to kick them into shape. So maybe it's referring to that what's up? That these criminals that are behind bars are like the Sons of Batman, where they'll do this, and he kind of turns a blind eye until it's convenient. Maybe. I'm stretching. I'm really trying to help this movie. I'm really trying. I'm trying to give it the benefit of every doubt. I promise. Also, one thing I will say that it took from the source material, and I think did better. The psychotic is just a 3-syllable word for any idea too big for tiny mind, whatever that.
Lines, I think.
Yeah, that one. That's actually straight out of Dark Knight Returns. But in Dark Knight Returns, that's Lana Lang who says that. She's on a point counterpoint chat show, and she's using it to defend Batman because the other guy is saying that Batman is psychotic, and you know what? Credit to Goyer. or whoever, or the other guy who wrote it, who I looked it up and I forgot, but credit to
Terrio.
yeah, Chris. He's only done a handful of things. One of them was Argo, which I'm willing to bet. Ben Affleck
brought him in, probably.
But whoever looked at that line and the original source material and said, no, that's something a villain says. That is something that a crazy person says. That is not something that you use to defend your hero. Because that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, in this context, it worked better as a Lex line than it ever did as a Lana Lang line. So credit to whoever was supposed to do that. Or whoever wrote that.
Mm-hmm. We should bring up the jar piss.
Oh yes, the thing is that I'm not even sure we need to bring it up because it is so stupid, but it is so ridiculous that it's hard not to say.
Yeah, quick point. There's a scene between the head of the Senate subcommittee, because there's a Senate subcommittee to investigate Superman.
Yeah, the Senate subcommittee on Superman.
Yeah, which, okay.
The SSS.
Uh-huh. The female senator who heads this, Lex had been trying to go to there because he wants to get the kryptonite in the country, but he needs some approvals and things, whatever, doesn't matter. And she comes to him, for some reason, goes to his house to tell him this. I don't know why that was necessary.
It was so that we could show off that picture.
Oh, you're right. Yes.
So we could show off the picture so that could come back later in the movie after everything's happened and it's already too late to affect anything.
Yeah. But, and what exactly was it she said? She said something about...
Yeah.
She was going to refuse to allow him the permissions he needed to get this stuff, the kryptonite, into the country. And she said something about... No one is going to...
Drink a bucket of piss and call it Granny's peach tea.
Yeah, okay, yes. She's like, you're not going to make me do that.
Yeah, something along those lines.
And this, which comes back later, because it's a plot point.
Yeah. By the way, she's from Kentucky, so it had to be folksy.
Yeah. To bring this back, there's a Senate subcommittee hearing... And they call Superman before the hearing, and he comes.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. Not in this movie. It didn't.
No, I'll buy. It's one of those. It's one of the few times I've seen Superman act like Superman. They want to question him on his actions in Metropolis. It seems like he would show up.
Yeah.
So I'll give him credit for Superman acting like Superman.
Okay, fine. So he shows up. And she's speaking, and she's making kind of her opening statement. She looks down and to her right, I believe it was.
Yeah. And
there's a mason jar of some kind of yellowy...
It's
amber.
a mason jar of urine with Granny's peach tea written on it.
Well, clearly it wasn't... Well, yeah.
Clearly,
yeah. And
I just
handwritten.
And that was a lot. I was wondering if that was all Lex himself, or if maybe he delegated that too. Like, you three, fill this mason jar with your own urine, and you bring it to the Senate floor. You bring it to the Senate subcommittee chambers, this particular committee chambers. Like, how did he even get that in the chambers? It didn't even have a top on the jar. It was an open jar.
Yeah.
Like, somebody's Did the Capitol Police?
Was someone sitting behind one of those tables very quietly pissing in a jar?
Yeah, was this? Are the Capitol Police that bad that you're just walking around with a jar of urine and they don't even notice? Like, this happens all the time.
Yeah, but then it's made.
Senator Vitter must be having a guest.
I don't know. It was really. I mean, the fact that is a plot only brought up because that's a plot point in the movie, which is really damn stupid. And then it completely. I don't know why. I don't know what the point of Lex doing it was, except to signal that something was wrong. Because then promptly it was to needle the senator just before she died.
I guess he blows up the chamber.
Yeah, because he blows it with the guy who he had manipulated and taken the mail and all that stuff. that guy, he put explosives on the guy's wheelchair, which he gave him, and so they were able to roll the wheelchair into the Senate chambers, and
yeah, and again, Superman gets blamed for this.
Yeah.
I'm willing. It seems to be that in the Schneider murderverse, the person who survives is always the one to blame. If you live, then it's your fault. If you happen to die, then you are entirely blameless.
Yeah.
Now, granted, Superman's reaction was, well, dull surprise to having been in an explosion and everybody around him blowing up. But that being said, I wouldn't say that it's his fault because he didn't react.
Well, yeah. But again, it's kind of the same thing. Like, all these people have died. Superman shows he has dull surprise and a vague brooding.
Yeah, he likes to look up and to the left. I guess he thinks that the answer to his existential questions is up there someplace. It's very stereotypical hero pose kind of stuff, and it's not. I mean, Superman. I'm turning on the other light. It is way too dark in here.
Superman does not seem to care that people are getting hurt. Like, people have died.
Yeah.
Like, Superman seems to have no particular feelings beyond vague discontent.
Yeah. He tells us that he cares, but the problem is they don't act like he cares.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been really harsh on this movie, but there are a lot of good things about it. I think we should probably talk about some of the good things. We've mentioned a bit. The performances were excellent.
Yes.
Affleck was great. Gal Gadot was great. Henry Cavill did really well considering what he was given.
Yeah.
And I guess the direction he was given. But there were some moments that he was really just spot on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I was a little iffy on Perry White's characterization.
I think it was Lawrence Fishburne doing what he could with it, was my take on it.
Yeah, and as much as you reacted to he wouldn't give her a helicopter for a story, but he'd give her a helicopter for something personal, I kind of liked that, actually. That's Perry White showing that he actually cares about the people that work for him, that they're a family to him, and that, you know, he's willing to spend money and help out if it means that much.
I suppose.
Yeah.
It did, but the gesture rang very hollow in this movie.
Yeah. But yeah, suffice to say though, yeah, lots of good performances. There, again, a lot of good movies were buried in this one. And I would have liked to see those movies.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing some of the other ones because the setups for the rest of the Justice League looked good. And from what I heard about them, I expected a lot less, and this worked out pretty well.
I do want to say the way they set up the other members of the Justice League is literally Batman had hacked into Lex Luthor's files and gotten basically some video clips on other metahumans, which was the Flash, Aquaman, Cyborg.
Yeah, Cyborg and Wonder Woman.
And Wonder Woman. Which I don't know why they needed that. I guess. I mean, it felt a little redundant considering that Wonder Woman's in the movie, but whatever, fine.
Well, Wonder Woman being in there was so that Bruce Wayne could see who she was and see that she is over 100 years old and still looks like Gal Gadot.
All right, fair enough. Fine. Minor quibble. But
also, I liked in the picture that's Chris Pine standing to her right as presumably Steve Trevor.
Right. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. That looks great.
Yeah. Which great. What did you think of the way they showed the Flash in the Batman's dream sequence?
The fact that it was a dream within a dream. Well, first of all, you would think that the fastest man alive on a limited time period would not pause so much. Again, I think of the Crisis on Infinite Earths where the Flash had to tell Bruce something very important, and he told as much as he could very, very quickly because he's the fastest man alive.
Right.
And knew he only had a certain time period. That being said, Dream Within a Dream, can we even count that as meaning anything? Unless Bruce actually... Well, I don't think it does mean anything because it said Lois is the key, and Lois clearly was not the key to anything.
It was... Well, and the Flash looked... I did not like the way they made the Flash look in that shot. He's, like, I guess, sticking his head out of the Speed Force, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
Which is what I think they were going for, but it looked awful.
It did.
I had to ask him, I mean, I know what the Flash more or less looks like, and I had to ask him who that was.
Yeah. Honestly, he looked more flashy in the security footage that you see from Lex's computer.
Yeah.
Where he's not in the Flash costume. He's just happens to be in a store that's being robbed, and then runs around really quick to stop the robber, and like that seems kind of flashy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not Grant Gustin.
And
it's not Grant, and it won't be Grant Gustin.
And it won't be.
And I'm just going to have to live with that. And I'm sure this actor will do a fine job. And I don't want to be that jerk who's like, oh, it has to be. It's just I do love Grant Gustin so much in the role. So I'm going to have to really kind of tell myself, all right, just prepare for something new.
Well, and why can't it be Grant Gustin? Again,
they want to keep things separate.
Why? Marvel is making great hay with their combining the MCU and the TV shows being a side thing as part of the MCU. Why wouldn't DC do the same thing?
I don't know. Because DC doesn't know what they're doing. It's Warner, because Warner Brothers has no clue what they're doing. That's why.
Which, side note, there was a trailer for Civil War.
Yeah.
And the trailer for X-Men Apocalypse before this movie. I'm like, guys, don't show us trailers for two movies that are nearly certain to be better movies.
Yeah, it's the old saying, never refer to a better movie in the middle of your crappy movie.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Also, one thing when Batman talks about he's at Wayne Manor, or the ruins of Wayne Manor, and he's saying to Jeremy Irons, who, by the way, did a decent job as Alfred.
Yeah.
He did. The problem is that he's following up on Michael Caine, and Michael Caine is so amazingly charming that it's hard to live up to that. And Jeremy Irons is a good actor.
And likable. Michael Caine is nothing if not likable.
Yeah. And, Jeremy Irons, he did a good job. He wasn't Michael Caine, but he was fine. But
he had some dry asides, and he seemed to care for Bruce Wayne in a very proper British sort of manner.
Yeah, and it worked out. But when Bruce is talking to him and saying, you know what this was built on? We were hunters. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I told her this in the theater. I'm like, all right, so what we did was we made Arrow so that Green Arrow was Batman, and now Batman is going to be Green Arrow? Is that what we're doing now? Because Green Arrow is better than Batman has been in the last 2 movies now.
Yeah.
So it's gotten to the point that Batman, it's now Batman is aspiring to be Green Arrow as opposed to Green Arrow aspiring to be Batman.
We were talking about good things about the movie. We should probably get back to that.
Fair, yes. All right, what else? There were some other. The cinematography. A lot of it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Again, that one crane shot still sticks with me.
Yeah.
Most of the production design, with the exception of that statue, looked good.
Yeah.
If it were a little bit brighter, it would look even better.
Yeah.
I like that they established the relative positions of Metropolis and Gotham to one another, that they're across the bay from each other.
Sure.
I'm like, okay, I kind of like that idea. That,
And that's not remotely comic accurate, is it?
Well, no. Metropolis is in Connecticut, and Gotham is New York. Although it's not New York, because New York also exists, but Gotham is it's a nickname for New York. It is New York.
Yeah.
Metropolis is... I always saw it as Chicago, but technically it's also New York.
Right.
But it's in Connecticut. It's called the Big Apricot. I'm not kidding. That's a thing in the DC continuity. All the way to Reign of Superman. At Reign of the Supermen, they mentioned the Big Apricot in the in the airport. Which, by the way, I wonder if they're going to do Reign of the Supermen next, because they clearly implied that they're bringing him back. Obviously, they are. And rereading Reign of the Supermen, it is not as bad as I remembered. I'm actually kind of enjoying it. I'm just afraid that Zack Snyder is going to make The Last Son of Krypton Superman Returned. Because Last Son of Krypton, of the 4 Supermen that replaced Superman after he died, The Last Son of Krypton was the most violent, the most amoral of them.
Yeah, that sounds like what Zack Snyder would pick.
Yeah, although maybe we can get Shaquille O'Neal back as Steel. Shaq, please, be Steel. I haven't seen that movie in forever. I remember it was really dumb, but at this point, I'll take it. It
might be bad, but it would be entertaining.
I should review Steel.
You should.
I think
yes.
I'm going to work on reviewing Steel. If I can sit through it, I will work on reviewing Steel.
It will. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
That's not a definite promise. I would comment. We should comment on the fact that right at the very end, because of course they're gonna do a sequel bag.
Yeah.
All you see, the only thing that tells you that Superman's coming back, I mean, aside from, of course Superman's coming back, Superman, of course he's gonna come back, is at the very end. Oh, that reminds me of something else we should bring up too. But at the very end, as it's rising off of, then there apparently Bruce Wayne, Clark Kent and Superman both get coffins, apparently.
Yeah, where is the body? Presumably the body is in Smallville, where the Smallville Piper Corps, because they have at least one guy in Smallville who plays the bagpipes.
Apparently.
Just for funerals. They, hire him out to play Amazing Grace. That's the only song he knows.
Yeah, but the two body things was bugging me, but fine, minor gripe, whatever.
Yeah.
At the very end, on the Smallville coffin, they show they made a point of Lois Lane had picked up a handful of dirt and dropped it on the coffin. You know, symbolism of dust to dust, blah blah blah, all that stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they had to, symbolism. Quote Film Brain.
Yes.
But they, at the very end, they've zoomed in on this coffin, and you can see the dirt on top of it, and I'm like, okay, what are they? This is being made important for some reason. I don't know what, but some reason. And slowly, the dirt starts to rise. Yeah,
which I don't remember. I'm not sure.
Fade to black.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that could mean, because it's not like Superman has gravity powers. Literally, the dirt, it wasn't shaking, or it wasn't like the coffin was rising up. The dirt was just rising up. And what? Does that maybe another Kryptonian thing? I mean, did that happen in Man of Steel?
I don't think so.
I'm not sure what.
It's been a while since I've seen Man of Steel, and I've only seen it once in the theater.
Maybe it was a reference to the post-credits sequence in X-Men 3? With Magneto, with the...
Maybe?
But then they should have probably cut it a second or two earlier.
Yeah.
So you're not sure whether... It was a really weird thing, but that being said, though, I think the mutual funerals were handled pretty well. Yeah. It seemed it was well shot. It was well put together.
Although you never get an explanation of what happened in universe. What happened to Clark Kent? Does everyone know Clark Kent is Superman?
Yeah.
I'm not clear on this.
Oh, and there were... Oh,
if not, why is Clark Kent, who apparently also died, being buried?
Yeah, what...
I'm guessing, is Zack Snyder just giving up on the fact that everybody in our world knows Clark Kent is Superman, so everybody in their world knows it, I guess?
Maybe? I'm sorry, I have to go one more bad thing. The portrayal of the Kents of Ma and Pa Kent. So at one point in this movie, they talk about Clark is talking about his father, who taught him to serve others and be a good person and protect others. And I'm like, what father are you talking about? Maybe, Mr. Maybe. Should I let those kids die? Maybe. And then his mother in this one, you don't know the world, or you don't know the world anything. I'm like, what Randian nonsense is this? Because again, it's a very objectivist opinion. It's if you have power and ability, you use it the way you want it, and you don't owe anybody anything.
Which, again, that doesn't sound like the Kents.
No, it doesn't.
The usual portrayal of the Kents at all.
Yeah, the movie wants us to believe that. The movie wants us to believe that Jonathan Kent was, in fact, the Jonathan Kent that we wanted him to be. A kind person who recognized that he needed to protect his son, but also recognized that his son had abilities and needed to use them to protect others. Who valued human life above even his own security and the security of his family. That's the Jonathan Kent we wanted, and this movie's trying to convince us that we got that instead of, no, don't save me, don't save me. Yeah. Instead, watch me die horribly. Your dad.
Stupid scene in Man of Steel. That was, yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's these are not the Kents that you keep telling us exist. They're not the same people.
Yeah. Yeah.
That being said, though, there were some great lines out of Martha Kent.
Yeah.
One of my favorites being when Batman rescues her, and he's, I'm a friend of your son's. I figured the cape.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a good line.
It was. It was.
Also, I keep doing the Christian Bale thing, but the way that they did this is they did the Arrow thing, where he just has a voice modulator.
Which sounded fine.
Yeah, which sounded fine. He didn't sound like T-Pain or anything. He sounded fine. And you know what? I'm okay with that. That's a perfectly acceptable excuse. I don't expect everybody to be Kevin Conroy and be able to do a different Bruce Wayne and Batman voice where the Batman voice doesn't sound stupid.
Yeah, well, I will say a good thing. I did like the Superman suit, or the Batman suit.
Yeah.
Except for, I hated the fight with Superman suit. I hate that. I think that looks really stupid.
That's a Frank Miller design. That looks like the one that Frank Miller used, and it's Frank Miller's kind of style. Excuse me. It's kind of blocky, and it has weird angles.
It's very unattractive, and it looked like it would be hard to move in.
Yeah, and Superman could just eye beam his mouth. His mouth is open. Why? I mean, I guess you didn't want him to look like Iron Man with horns, but But other than that, the rest of the times you see Batman on screen looked great. Oh, absolutely, yeah. Great costume design throughout. Yeah. Actually, I like the.
Yeah.
I would have liked more color in Gal Gadot's in Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Because we were promised more color. Right? Remember when the first images came out and everyone's like, "Oh wow, that is really brown. That is just so brown." And the studio was like, no, it's just sepia tone. Really, it's fine. It's going to be...
Well,
no, it wasn't. No.
The whole movie, and we are down on battery, I think, so we should probably...
Yeah. Well, let's keep talking about the good stuff.
Okay,
right.
okay.
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
So,
okay.
yeah. But, yeah, so, there was... But, yeah, the costumes, phenomenal. A lot of the individual scenes were really well done. The problem came in largely because they don't fit together well. But individually as scenes, they were fine.
Yeah.
In fact, I would almost say that they would have made two really good movies with a couple more scenes to bridge some of the stuff in there.
Usually. Yes.
You could get a couple of good movies out of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so ultimately, it was not a horrible film. It is not the worst film I've ever seen. It was mediocre at best.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say...
The battery's flashing at us.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we pretty much covered it. I think give our final thoughts.
My final thought, it's a mediocre film. It's worth the watch. I wouldn't go out of my way to see it, but yeah, take a look at it.
I wouldn't pay to see it in the theater again. We mentioned the good things about it. My overall thought was, it's not a fun movie to watch.
Yeah.
It's dark in tone and lighting, and like the final fight's dark and in the rain.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing. They leached all the color out of it. Completely all the color out of it.
There's no fun to this, and that's a shame because there could have been.
Yeah.
And hopefully some of the other ones will be better. But
I hope so.
I'm glad that I saw it. I don't think I need to see it again for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Agreed.
So, hi, Sammy. All right, so this was Karu and Debbie and Sammy, apparently. That was Batman v Superman. Mediocre.
Yeah.
And this has been Sequentially Yours. Take care.